Microfone, meu nome é João Gonçalves e bem-vindos ao 12º episódio do Dragon Age. Nós no último episódio chegámos pela primeira vez ao campo aqui e disse-vos que neste episódio iríamos falar com as personagens todas que temos acesso a, conhecê-las mais um pouco, porque o objetivo é começar a desenvolver as nossas relações pessoais com elas, porque isso vai ser extremamente importante ao longo do curso do jogo, tal como é comum neste género de jogos. Além disso, eu tenho que falar com o Sandal para desbloquear uma quest, ou neste caso terminar uma quest. Tenho ali uma side quest pela Levi Dryden. Ora, já que estamos aqui no campo, vamos começar por falar com a Liliana e eu interrogo-me porque é que raio que tenho uma garrafa fechada e uma caneca mesmo à beira da minha cabeceira. Mas pronto, deixem lá. Não interessa. Liliana?
Yes?
Quero falar contigo.
Well, here I am.
É verdade. Eu aproveitei entre episódios para evoluir as minhas personagens, que tinham pontos para dar, e equipar o que podia. Por isso estão a ver que a Liliana está com uma roupinha muito mais reveladora e uma coleira. Ela aparentemente gosta de coleiras. E estou a ver ali ao fundo a Morrigan. Ora, eu vou tentar ter uma relação aqui com a Liliana. Na primeira vez que joguei este jogo tive que Morrigan, mas o meu objetivo é a Liliana. Ora, vamos lhe perguntar pela visão dela.
I knew this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
E então?
When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rosebush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
E isto fez-te ajudar? Boa pergunta.
In my dream, I fell. Or maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the blight devours everything?
Ui, que pergunta, o número 2. The blight is the Maker's punishment. Will you defy him?
I don't know. He made this world. He could destroy it. But there is so much worth saving. You're such a pessimist.
Oops, crap. Sorry.
Yes? Well, here I am.
Crap. Ora bem, vamos perguntar como é que foi a vida dela no cloister da Chantry.
Quiet. It was a life suited for contemplation. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace. And in that stillness, I could hear the Maker. But it was not perfect. Some of my Chantry fellows were condescending. That is the nature of religious folk, I suppose.
Condescending? How so?
When I talked about my beliefs, that the Maker reveals himself in the beauty of his world, they treated me with disdain. They want to believe that he's gone, so that when he turns his gaze on them, it means they are special, chosen. He cannot possibly have love for all, the sick and the weary, the beggars and the fools.
Vamos dizer que preferimos a ideia dela relativamente às ideias da Chantry.
Thank you. Maybe I am wrong. But it is the Maker's place to decide if I am worthy, not men, not the Chantry. But there is work to be done, and I have talked enough for now.
Approval. E outra vez?
Yes?
Quero falar contigo.
Well, here I am.
E o último ponto, what will someone like you be doing in Lothering's Chantry?
What is meant by someone like me?
Vamos dizer a segunda. Charming.
And there were no beautiful, charming women in the cloisters, you think? You would be wrong. There were many lovely young initiates in the Lothering cloister, all of them chaste and virtuous. It added to their mystique, because then They were forbidden, and forbidden fruit is the sweeter, no?
É claro que those initiates can't have been more lovely than you.
Flatterer. I, however, did not take vows, and so perhaps I am not as enigmatic? The Chantry provides succor and safe harbor to all who seek it. I chose to stay and become affirmed.
Affirmed?
We affirm our belief in the Maker, in Andraste and the Chant, but other than that, there are no vows taken.
Então as tuas skills foram aprendidas antes do teu tempo.
I was a traveling minstrel in Orlais. Tales and songs were my life. I performed, and they rewarded me with applause and coin. And my skill in battle? Well, you pick up different skills when you travel, yes? Yes, of course. Let's move on.
Sim, senhor. Mais cheios de approval. Ora, Liliana. Muito bem. Ora, há uma coisa que ainda não vos mostrei, mas que eu já vos falei. É que nós vamos recebendo ao longo do tempo gifts para dar aos nossos companheiros para aumentar a influência. Só que cada companheiro tem certos gostos. Por isso temos de ter cuidado o que damos para tentar ter o máximo de de aumentos possíveis. Ora, agora vamos falar com o Alistair.
What do you need?
Queres falar sobre o Duncan?
You don't have to do that. I know you didn't know him as long as I did.
João, isso não quer dizer que eu não possa, obviamente, que sentir falta dele.
I should have handled it better. Duncan warned me right from the beginning that this could happen. Any of us could die in battle. I shouldn't have lost it, not when so much is riding on us, not with the blight and everything. I'm sorry.
Não há problema, Alistair.
I'd like to have a proper funeral for him. Maybe once this is all done, if we're still alive. I don't think he had any family to speak of.
E os outros? Então não tinha. Tinha-te a ti.
I suppose he did. It probably sounds stupid, but part of me wishes I was with him, in the battle. I feel like I abandoned him.
Ele salvou-te a vida.
Yes, I know. I think he came from High Ever, or so he said. Maybe I'll go up there sometime. See about putting up something in his honor. I don't know. Have you had someone close to you die? Not that I mean to pry, I'm just...
Eu vou dizer que perdemos o suficiente.
Yes, I imagine you really have, haven't you? Thank you. Really, I mean it. It was good to talk about it, at least a little.
Se calhar eu vou contigo. Ever.
I'd like that. So would he, I think.
5. Outra vez?
What do you need?
Falar
Ask
comigo?
away.
O que é que pode um Templar fazer?
Essentially, they're trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells.
Então quer dizer que mais ninguém pode aprender?
Perhaps, but there usually isn't much of an opportunity. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars. We are given lyrium to help develop our magical talents, you see. Which means we become addicted. And since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put 2 and 2 together.
Oh, Pimpolho, irra. Silêncio, homem. Estou a ter uma conversa aqui. Por isso, quer dizer que estás... tens um problema, não tens?
Thankfully, no. You only start receiving lyrium once you've taken your vows. You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templars' talents more effective. Or so I was told. Maybe it doesn't even do that. The Chantry usually doesn't let their Templars get away either, so they can spread their secrets. I'm a bit of an exception. Lucky me.
Vocês saiam daqui, por favor. Outra vez.
What do you need? Ask
Falarem.
away.
Podes ensinar outros a ser templário?
I suppose I could. But I really would rather not. When the Grand Cleric let Duncan recruit me, she made me swear never to reveal Templar secrets outside of the Chantry. I'd rather not go back on my word.
Ok, vou-te respeitar.
Ask me later, perhaps. Maybe I'll change my mind. This is not something small you're asking, after all.
Ok, outra vez.
What do you need? Ask away.
Fala-me sobre os Grey Wardens.
Such as they are.
Ora, onde é que eles estão?
That's a good question. There's plenty in Orlais, but who knows where they might be found. And the nearest Orlesian city is weeks away. If we go north and cross the sea, there's bound to be some in the Free Marches. Again, however, I just don't know where. I don't know anything about Grey Wardens in other lands.
E tipo HQ.
Here in Ferelden, there's our compound in Denerim at the palace, but that's it. Loghain will have control over that and be watching it, no doubt. Beyond that, the only place I know of is Weishaupt Fortress. That's the headquarters of all Grey Wardens in the Anderfells, 1,000 miles from here. But I've no idea how to even contact them. So unless we try to get back to the compound in Denerim, I suppose the answer is no. There's nowhere for us to go.
Ok, então vamos ter que começar a reconstruir a ordem.
I mean, eventually we would have to use the joining to make more Grey Wardens, right? But I don't know how to do the joining, or what's involved. I know it involves lyrium and some other magic and that it's really difficult to prepare, but that's it. Unless we can find out more about the joining, I guess we better get used to the idea that there might only be 2 of us for now. Until more come from elsewhere.
E o que é que acontece agora que são os
I
dois?
imagine that eventually the Grey Wardens outside of Ferelden will wonder what's happened. Why there's no contact from Duncan or someone. They'll send someone eventually. Though who knows what Loghain's people in Denerim will tell them. Maybe they won't send anyone.
Sacaninhas.
Try to contact them. But that would mean leaving Ferelden, and even if we did, they couldn't come back with us in time to stop the Blight. So that means whatever happens, it's up to us.
Eu não vou fazer a primeira pergunta porque isso é estúpido.
About the Grey Wardens, anyhow. Fair enough. What do you need?
Falar contigo?
Ask away.
Ok, vamos perguntar. Então tornaste um Grey Warden?
Same way you did. You drink some blood, you choke on it, and pass out. You haven't forgotten already, have you?
Engraçado.
I do my best. What can I say? Let's see, I was in the Chantry before. I trained for many years to become a Templar, in fact. That's where I learned most of my skills.
Não percebes? Não parece muito religioso.
You're telling me I was banished to the kitchens to scour the pots more times than I can count. And that's a lot. I can count pretty high. The Grand Cleric didn't want to let me go. Duncan was forced to conscript me, actually, and was she ever furious when he did. I thought she was going to have us both arrested. I was lucky.
Achas que isto é melhor que ser templário?
Oh, I suppose the Chantry life is good enough for some. Here, we have the chance to fight against the Blight. To actually do some good instead of sitting in a temple somewhere. I'll always be thankful to Duncan for recruiting me. If it hadn't been for him, you know, I wouldn't have.
Ele foi bom homem.
He was. A good man who didn't deserve his fate. That much I'm sure of. Come on, let's go. I think I'm done talking.
Ainda não.
What do you need? Ask away.
Ora, vamos falar então a última pergunta que nos sobra. É que so you said this Arleyman raised you.
Did I say that? I meant that dogs raised me. Giant slobbering dogs from the Anderfells. A whole pack of them, in fact.
Não foi isso que disseste à Flemeth?
Well, if you're going to go and pay attention to the facts, then fine. Let's see, how do I explain this? I'm a bastard. And before you make any smart comments, I mean the fatherless kind. My mother was a serving girl in Redcliffe Castle who died when I was very young. Our Lehman wasn't my father, but he took me in anyhow and put a roof over my head. He was good to me, and he didn't have to be. I respect the man, and I don't blame him anymore for sending me off to the Chantry once I was old enough.
Ora, se ele não é o teu pai, sabes quem é?
I know who I was told was my father. He died even before my mother did, anyhow. It isn't important. Our Lehman eventually married a young woman from Orlais, which caused all sorts of problems between him and the king because it was so soon after the war. But he loved her. Anyhow, the new Arlessa resented the rumors which pegged me as his bastard. They weren't true, but of course they existed. The Arl didn't care, but she did. So off I was packed to the nearest monastery at age 10, just as well. The Arlessa made sure the castle wasn't a home to me by that point. She despised me.
Que coisa horrível você ser uma criança.
Maybe. She felt threatened by my presence, I can see that now. I can't say I blame her. She wondered if the rumors were true herself, I bet. I remember I had an amulet with Andraste's holy symbol on it. The only thing I had of my mother's. I was so furious at being sent away, I tore it off and threw it at the wall and it shattered. Stupid, stupid thing to do. The Arl came by the monastery a few times to see how I was, but I was stubborn. I hated it there, and blamed him for everything. And eventually, he just stopped coming.
Era jovem, pá.
And raised my dogs. Or I may as well have been, the way I acted. But maybe all young bastards act like that. I don't know. All I know is that the Arl is a good man, and well loved by the people. He also was King Caelan's uncle, so he has a personal motivation to see Loghain pay for what he did. Anyway, that's really all there is to the story.
Aí está. Ó Bimpolho. E qual é o problema?
Oh, why, you little... Your furry friend here took offense at me getting near his food. He snapped at me, look.
What?
Sometimes I forget that he's a war dog. That'll teach me. I once heard a really old legend about how the Hound warriors in the days of the old tribes would feed their Mabari the flesh of the vanquished. Well, that's what I heard anyway. It would sometimes be human flesh. Oh, like you can tell the difference. For all you know, maybe you've already been fed something. Someone.
Engraçado. Vamos ver como que vamos alimentá-lo com outro ser humano.
It's not cannibalism if he's eating it, you know.
Adoro. Já chega a falar com este. Ai, que parou isso. Ora bem. É mais para ladrar? Vamos falar aqui com o Levi.
You're a hard man to find. Where are my manners? The name is Levi. Levi Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levi of the coins? Levi the trader?
Nope. Duncan never mentioned you.
Really? He never told you of old Levi? We've known each other for years. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
Olha, como é que tu conheces o Duncan?
It's a bit of a tale, that is. But I'm the one who brought the Grey Wardens back to Ferelden. Well, I was one of the ones. There were a lot of us. Make us breath, I'm a bit nervous. Honoured to be here, really.
Ok, conta uma história.
After King Marek freed us from the Orlesians, the Grey Wardens begged the king's permission to come into Ferelden, some sort of internal business. Me and a mess of other Warden sympathisers spoke on behalf of your order. Tan Loghain was very much against letting Orlesian Wardens in the kingdom. But Marek, Andraste, bless him, was a fair-minded monarch and he let them in.
Ok, continua.
So that's why I was there when the Wardens and their leader, Genevieve, presented herself to the king. The first Wardens in Ferelden in over a century. Proudest state of my life, that was. Duncan was a bit of a scamp back then. We were of an age and struck up a friendship. The king himself went with the Wardens on their mysterious business. When he returned, he rescinded King Ardland's decree, and the Wardens came back to Ferelden for good.
Ok, porque é que foram os Grey Wardens mandados embora?
People say it's because the Wardens have become terribly unpopular. Just soaking up tires and not doing a bleeding thing for the kingdom. I say that's bollocks, as recent events have shown.
Então o Marek simplesmente anulou o decreto.
Marek was a bit of a visionary. A powerful mind, that one. In his travels with the Wardens, he must have seen how important their cause was, and been moved by it.
Duvido que seja a história toda.
There was some talk at court that he did it to improve relations with Orzammar. That might have factored into it, but make no mistake. King Marek was a giant among men.
Obrigado por teres ajudado.
Oh, his stomach's all aflutter. You're welcome.
Ora, e então o que é que o Duncan te prometeu?
My family, well, past a bit checkered, to see. Nobles look at us with disdain. My great-great-grandmother, Sophia Dryden, was the last Warden commander of Ferelden back when the Wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arland banished the Wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
E o que aconteceu a seguir?
Hard to say. After King Arland died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world. But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
E qual foi o favor que pediste ao Duncan?
Ask for the truth. My family reveres Sophia Dryden. We know she died at the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. We want evidence to clear her name. It won't restore our land or our titles, but it'll restore our honour.
Nem sequer ouvi falar disso, homem.
Well, no one's been to Soldier's Peak since Ireland's days. At least none that's come back. I spent years mapping the maze of tunnels to the peak, and I found the way a few years back. So I went to Duncan, I did, and I said that he could reclaim the old base and my family could have its honour.
E como é que reclamar o pique ajuda os Wardens?
Soldier's Peak has strategic and symbolic importance. Duncan said that it would be worth it right there. He also hoped to recover lost Warden history and perhaps a few old relics. No one knows what's up there now.
Ok, eu vou-te ajudar.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
The History of the Drydens. Ele foi-se embora. Ai, maluco. Ai, maluco. Ora, há uma coisa que ainda não vos disse. Preciso de carregar Spells and Talents. Eu gostava de mostrar as Specializations, mas agora não posso. Eu disse que nós podemos escolher Specialization, certo? Mas infelizmente as do Mago estão todas bloqueadas. E se a memória não me falha... Enchantment... Aham. Ok, isto aqui acho que me permite desbloquear uma Specialization. Ora, vamos falar com o Stan. Hello, Stan.
Why are we stopping?
Ora, estamos a trabalhar juntos, por isso preciso saber sobre ti.
There are Darkspawn to be fought. Is this delay needful?
Ora, preciso saber que posso confiar em ti.
I am Kunari. I have given my word to aid you. We are not people of idle promises.
Ora, nunca vi um Kunari antes. Kunami fresquinho. Ora, conta-me sobre ti.
No.
What? Why not?
People are not simple. They cannot be summarized for easy reference in the manner of the elves are a lithe, pointy-eared people who excel at poverty.
Hilariante. Ora bem, tu já estiveste no exército?
I am.
Lutaste numa guerra?
I have always fought in war, human.
O que é que quer dizer com isso?
My people have been at war since the moment we set foot in the Northern Islands.
Ou seja, vocês não são nativos das
We
ilhas?
do now.
E de onde é que vieram antes?
Somewhere else.
Pode ser mais específico?
No.
Holy
I was
moly.
born in Saharon. Of the land we came from, I know nothing, not even its name. I do not see how this matters. Saharon and Parvolan are distant. Ferelden and the Darkspawn are immediate.
Estás bem?
You are concerned. No need. I am fit enough to fight.
Ok.
As you wish.
Holy moly. Isto é que é um gajo direto, hein? Nós estamos aqui a falar com...
It's good to see you, my timely rescuer. Bodon Fennick, at your service, once again. I saw your camp and remember the kind offer that you made the last time we met. And is there anywhere safer for a poor merchant and his son to sleep? I think not. I'm perfectly willing to offer you a fine discount for the inconvenience of our presence. How does that sound? Good? Yes?
Yes, awesome, awesome. Ora... podem ficar à vontade.
Wonderful. Thank the gentleman, won't you, boy?
Enchantment?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, bolas.
We won't be a bother to you and your companions, I assure you. If you should need enchantments, simply talk to my boy. Otherwise, come speak with me.
Ok, portanto, vamos falar com o Sandal.
Hello.
The
Hello.
boy's a bit simple, but he's rather good with enchantments. One of those tranquil fellas actually called him a... what was it now? A savant. I had no idea such a thing existed.
Ok, que enchantments ele faz?
He can fold lyrium into almost any weapon or piece of armor, though naturally some of the more extravagant materials will take more lyrium than others. It's a process that some of the master smiths back in Orzammar will perform, but my boy here is just as adept at it. Isn't that right, boy?
Enchantment.
Enchantment!
You have it.
Ok.
Enchantment.
Enchantment! Oathkeeper, posso-lhes pôr Electricity. Ok, vamos dar dano de Electricity. E já está, não está? E agora? Escape? Escape? Accept. Já está. Enchantment! Quest completed! Agora vamos a
If
border.
there's anything I can do for you, please, please tell me.
Ok, vamos pedir a história dele.
Well, if you're really interested, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you. I am originally from Orzammar, the famed dwarven city that lies beneath the stately Frostback Mountains. I was a merchant there, too. Merchant caste. These things are in the blood, you know. You can't just leave them behind. I ran a fairly successful business. Rare artifacts, you know. Old things, grand things. The nobles loved them. Reminded them of the lost glory days, I suppose.
E o que é que foste embora?
One day, a noble woman came to my stall. She looked around for a bit and then started shrieking in dismay. Apparently, she believed that a pair of braces I had for sale once belonged to her brother. He'd been lost in a cave-in, you see, while on an expedition to clear out the Darkspawn from one of the tunnels running close to the city. They were made specially for him. They're unique, she shrieked. He stole them from my poor brother's corpse. She had me arrested on the spot, of course. Nobles, they're touchy like that.
E o que é que aconteceu?
Well, I didn't steal them. You see, I'd been paying these castless thugs to venture out into the deep roads for me. The lost tides, they're full of things that people left behind. Sometimes you can find a treasure, something worth a little gold.
Ok.
The noblewoman, she wasn't too happy with the theft of her brother's braces. I don't know what they planned for me, and I didn't want to find out. Bribed the guard that was watching me and took off for the surface first opportunity I got. Never looked back.
E agora estás aqui.
Yes, here I am. Now, is there anything the boy or I can get you?
Ok, não mencionaste teu filho.
Ah, yes. I'm married to a fine woman back in Denerim, it's true. She'd give me a son if she could, but that's not likely to ever be. Sandal here. I found him in the deep roads years ago. Abandoned, I think, and he was never quite right in the head. I took him in, and I brought him with me when I came here to the surface. It may not be my blood, true, but I think of him as one.
Muito
We
bem.
left Orzammar.
That's right, boy. Maybe one day we'll see it again.
Muito generoso de ti, rapaz.
It's not as if I don't benefit, mind you. Turns out the boy's a natural working with enchantments. He might have even been lyrium-addled. I never thought of that before, to be honest. Happens sometimes. He can work an enchantment into just about anything, however, given some time. Could probably open his own shop, if he knew how.
Enchantment.
Well, he does seem to enjoy it, at least.
E de onde é que vêm os teus goods?
Look, we don't rob people, all right? We don't take things from people that need them. The things in the Lost Tigers, what good did they do lying there? I brought them back to Orzammar, where people could look at them and remember. It's not all that different up here. There are places long abandoned by the humans everywhere. Even more now with the Darkspawn coming.
Queres dizer com isso?
People flee from the Blight with good reason, but they forget things. Things with value and meaning. They leave them behind because they're frightened and desperate. And sometimes, my boy and I, we find our way to these places before the Horde descends, and we save these things. I take them away so the Darkspawn don't get them. Is that so bad? They destroy everything they touch.
Bem, acho que é melhor do que ter os Darkspawns.
That's what I tell
objetos.
myself, too. Ah, these are dark times indeed. Dark times, my friend.
E rumores?
Some folks aren't happy about Tyrn Loghain being named Regent. There are rumors he had something to do with the king's death. Isn't that the most ridiculous thing you ever heard? The Darkspawn killed him, sure enough. If Tyrn Loghain couldn't save the king from that inn, then nobody could. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
E mais?
There's not just Darkspawn in the Horde, you know that? There are people with them. Folks who are sick with the Blight, and their minds are all twisted and mad. I heard tell of a man meeting his own brother on the field, yet when he called out to him, his brother didn't even recognize him and just attacked. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
Ok, deixa-me saber o que tens a
I'm
ver.
sure you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
Aqui, abre isto, olha aí, armas. Jesus! Olha isto, jovens. Deus me livre. Sylvan's Mercy. Staff. Maravilhoso. E que me daria muito jeito, provavelmente. De armaduras temos o resto do set Blood Dragon. Eu não vou comprar nada, aproveito só para vos mostrar. As Plate Boots. A Collective Arming Call. Enchanters Arming Grip. A Black Metal Torque para o nosso cãozito. The Spellward Holy Moly. A Parvolan's Willstone. Ok, isto tudo maravilhoso. Increases Monetary Gain. Ok. Se eu vou comprar este. Para Spirit Resistance. Mas quer dizer, vou ganhar mais dinheiro, não é? Vamos comprar. Aqui, então, a Physical Technique. Podemos comprar isto para dar pontos. Mais runas. A Golden Rope Necklace, mais gifts. Estes gifts são maravilhosos. Porque, olhem a quantidade de gifts que eu tenho aqui. Posso comprar isto. Isto eu vou comprar. Truques. Isto é para eu desbloquear estas duas especializações. Uncrushable Pigeon. Isto são gifts. Isto obviamente que é muitos gifts. Estes são especiais que vão aumentar e muito a minha approval com a maltinha. Mas eu não vou comprar já porque isto ocupa dinheiro. Alistair Doll, eu acho que este é para a Morrigan. Ai, adoro. Ok, e aqui? Muito bem. Depois eu vendo as minhas coisas ao Bora. Continuar o episódio, porque agora só me falta falar com a Morrigan.
What do you wish of me?
Quero falar contigo.
If you must.
Really? Ora, quando é que tornaste-me shape changer?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
Tu também andou a fazer isto há algum tempo, então, não é?
Changing her form, certainly. Devouring lost children, I cannot say. She has not done it in my experience, though in truth my lifespan is but a fraction of her own. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Pode qualquer pessoa transformar-se num shape changer?
Anyone with sufficient will. But the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell and thus requires a mage's talents. Indeed, you could learn the spells required if I cared to teach you.
Nunca ouvi falar de uma magia desse género.
No? 'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of magi, despite what those mages would have you believe. Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could, but as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
Ora, por praticantes estás a falar dos apostates, correto?
Not all apostates use the forbidden blood arts. Maleficarum do, but to condemn all who do not fall under the circle's thrall for the sake of what might be is a dangerous path to walk. There are those who look on the word apostate as meaning freedom.
E podes mudar-te para outras formas humanas?
The form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
E costumas passar muito tempo como
There
animal?
were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
E que outro tipo de animais é que transformaste? Rapariga?
Do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
Ok.
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
Yes, indeed! Não, vamos dizer que... ok, eu queria dizer a primeira, mas a resposta número 3 também mudou. Mas vou dizer a primeira.
Oh, you're simply full of surprises, little man, aren't you? But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
Ora bem, ela pode me ensinar uma especialização, embora eu não a queira, mas
What do you wish
desbloqueio.
of me? If you must. By others, do you mean yourself?
Sim, estou considerando.
Then I shall teach you what I can whenever we are in camp, provided you have the will to even make the attempt, that is.
Aí está! Especialização unlocked. Mas eu não quero selecionar, ok? Que eu não quero ser um shapeshifter. Garantir que não está selecionado. Ok, fantástico. Eu tenho que fazer exatamente a mesma coisa para as outras. Spirit Healer é com outra pessoa. Estes dois, acho que isto também é com uma pessoa. E isto aqui que também eu quero desbloquear. Eu quero estas duas já agora. Blood Mage and Arcane Warrior. Vamos lá
What
com
do you
ela.
wish of me? If you must.
Vamos comentar sobre a mãe dela.
Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Human?
Oh, she certainly was human. Once. Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten them into obedience.
Estou mais interessado na verdade.
I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
Ok, sim.
As the tale is sung by the bards, there was a time when Flemeth was young and beautiful, a fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her.
E há quanto tempo é que isso foi?
Many centuries before this land was even named Ferelden. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the bard, and fled the castle of her husband, the dread Lord Conabar, and that he swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conabar the jealous lord who looked on from afar. Lord Conabar approached young Osen and offered him wealth and power in exchange for his lovely wife, and Osen agreed.
Ele pintou a mulher?
The life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All would have been well had Lord Conabar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge.
Spirits ou demónios?
That was not
Oops.
the point. Conabar had no honor, so she would not have him. Flemeth begged the spirits to aid her, and 'twas they who slew Conabar. The demon the legend tells of came later. Lord Conabar's allies chased Flemeth, you see, chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later. All lies.
Qual delas?
The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero. Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
E como é que ela sobreviveu tanto tempo?
The demon within her has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her.
Uma história interessante.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
Vamos dizer.
Nothing. I wish to know nothing more. I find myself a little envious, to tell the truth. But it matters not. Let us move on.
Ok, outra vez.
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Já foste perseguida pela Chantry.
You are very cute to ask so many questions.
Vamos dizer que... Ora, eu não quero nenhuma relação contigo, lamento, rapariga, por isso vamos dizer que não tens de responder se não quiseres.
Of course I don't. 'Tis no matter. My mother has been hunted from time to time, yes, by Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more.
Fun? Fun? Então, ou seja, vocês não tinham problemas?
I am unsure. I was too young to understand, and perhaps 'twas bravado on Flemeth's part, or perhaps she was merely amused. I will never know. Flemeth would warn them, once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait. A little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom.
Eles usam como isco?
'Twas a game, and I a young girl. If I didn't get to play, I would have been very upset. Thankfully, the wilds is a vast place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere, and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum.
Ainda continuas a achar que era divertido, rapariga. Continuas!
I think that my mother made it fun so that a child did not learn to fear. And I think that it was necessary. There are no trials for apostates, no prisons, no mercy. There are only absolutes, so only survival matters. If the wilds have taught me anything, 'tis this. First, you must survive. Do you disagree?
Se calhar está certa.
An interesting answer for a mage. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand.
Ora, mais bebês?
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Ora, última pergunta de hoje.
Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I?
Podes-me...
Beg pardon then while I jump for joy. What is it you asked if I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness.
Mas continuaste a voltar.
Would you not do the same? Your world is an unforgiving and cold place. The wilds I hail from is home to me, and I a natural denizen. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for.
Very daring.
Equal parts daring and foolhardy, perhaps. Only once was I accused of being a witch of the wilds, and that by a chastened who happened to be travelling with a merchant caravan. He pointed and gasped, and began shouting in his strange language, and most assumed he was casting some curse upon me. I acted the terrified girl, and naturally, he was arrested. Men are always willing to believe two things about a woman. One, that she is weak, and two, that she finds him attractive. I played the weakling and battered my eyelashes at the captain of the guard. Child's play. The point being that I was able to move through human lands fairly easily. Whatever humans think a witch of the wild looks like, 'tis not I. Not that I did not have trouble. There are things about human society which have always puzzled me, such as the touching. Why all the touching for a simple greeting?
Bem, agora em tempos de Covid não há cá grande touching. Touching?
To begin with, yes. What is the point of touching my hand? I find it an offensive intrusion. There were many nuances that Flemeth could never tell me of. when to look into another's eyes, how to eat at a table, how to bargain without offending. None of these things I knew. I still do not understand it all, truth be told, but then I gave up long ago any hope of doing so. When I returned to the wilds last, I swore to Flemeth that I had no intention of leaving again.
E, no entanto, aqui estás.
Yes, here I am. Well, let's get on with it before the ground opens up and swallows us, yes?
Mais uma vez, desculpem lá.
Yes?
Falar pessoal.
We're in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
Never mind. I don't want a relationship with you, woman. Ora bem, tá, chega de conversa, chega. Vamos voltar aqui ao centro para terminar o episódio. E vou aproveitar no intervalo entre episódios para vender a parte da tralha que já não preciso dela, que está aqui, que está a ocupar espaço desnecessariamente. Quando voltarmos, vamos sair e vamos para a torre dos Magi, fazer essa parte e recrutar ou os magos, ou os templários, ou quem quer que apareça pelo caminho para nos ajudar. Se gostaram, maltinha, já sabem, caixa de comentários sempre aberta. Espero que tenham gostado deste episódio e espero contar com vocês no próximo. E fui!